Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and welcome back to Cards in Hand. This is episode 17, and we have an episode here. We know that it's been a while since our last one. That's because we got a lot of good things going on. My man FTC here, picking up some new work. You'd love to see it.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
then
sir.
I am less than 2 weeks away from my wedding. You know,
Let's go, dude.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, little claps. We
Yeah.
dude, so we've had a lot. We've had a lot going on, but all good things, which is nice.
Yes.
At
Yes.
least we can say, not really anything bad that's been holding us back.
Fair.
But yeah, staying productive in our lives and just, a lot of fun things. But we had to hop on for some good old One Piece because there's too much to talk about with
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And to that point, let's keep it a buck. The last half of 8 was kind of like,
Yeah.
what is there to be said? Like there wasn't really anything to be said for the last half of set 8. Like
Yeah.
we kind of had it figured out. Everything was,
Yep.
it was more of the same pretty much.
Yeah.
And so
And
we got the 8.5 that came in, and now we've got some more wind beneath our wings.
yes, lifting us up,
Yes, exactly.
I will say though, there was one exciting part about the end of OPO8, and we're going to get into that right now because that's where we wanted to start. Today, we have a few things that we want to talk about, guys. We wanted to talk about some of the regional finishings and placements that happened throughout OPO8, but not really like super break them down, just kind of highlight a few things which I thought were interesting. And then we also wanted to just briefly talk about the EU national finals, which was very interesting. And will that be, something of relevance going forward? I don't know, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Kind of wanted to talk about some of the store regionals experiences. I thought that was really fun, and there was a lot of really cool stuff that was going on with the store regionals, so that was really neat. And then we want to go into OPO 8.5, what we're going to be expecting with the addition of these starter decks, and rounding out this OPO 8 meta before we hit set 9 is going to be really interesting, and kind of a little sprinkle of, since every single starter deck had one of those packs in it, little sprinkle of PRB in there, because that was fun opening some of those up, and there were some absolute devious behavior happening from people.
Yeah. When they threw in, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of caught unaware that a PRB pack was going to be in the starter.
I knew, but I forgot.
I think that's what it was. I think that's what happened, because I was like, wait a minute, like I think I remember hearing of it.
Yeah.
But then when it actually came out and they're like, oh, PRB pack, I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And to the kind of what you're leading into, it kind of created some issues.
Yeah, we'll have to go into that because it was
sure,
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, honestly, man.
But then we wanted to round out the end of the podcast today with some talk about the November Treasure Cups that are going to be 8.5 and 8.5 the whole way. Yeah. Because they are starting out with 8.5. I thought it was going to start with 8, but a little bit of a change. And then as well as a little bit of OPO 9, just talking about kind of the future, what's going on. Yeah, but as far as regionals, so this is why, going back to what you said, 8.5, or excuse me, not 8.5, OPO 8, it was like, all right, we're done. It's the same thing, blah, 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 Lucci, BY, whatever, This is where it gets interesting, is that's how we started, right? It started, we thought it would end the same way. We had a lot of like Nami placements as well that I thought were interesting. Nami was very prevalently in the top 16, finding its way into the top 8. It was getting first and second place here or there. So we had a couple of those. Lot of like starter deck 13 Luffy, BY Luffy, a lot of Lucci taking first place, right? But, the further I get into these regionals, right, I'm starting to look, I'm like, okay, core TCG, we've got Lucci. This was Flyest Raven, shout out to him. He was actually able to give me the Rob Lucci list that I played. minus like I changed like one card.
Yeah.
That I was able to get my national invite from a store regional, which was really cool.
Let's go.
Starter deck 14, Luffy
I
actually
was gonna
got.
say that
Yeah,
that was the one that actually there were that was like kind of the new splash, if you will, that kind of came along
yeah,
and changed up the meta ever so slightly. Was the starter deck 14 Luffy, and
yeah,
you know that leader, that deck list has been the point of, I won't call it contention, but certainly debate. It's been a debatable
yeah,
leader and deck list, and how good is it really? You know, is it bait? Isn't, you know, as we hear, is it a bait deck, as people like to call it,
yeah.
and so on and so forth. But you're right, that was a new challenger has arrived, and it definitely made a splash, and I mean, it did really well for itself.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting mix up for sure.
Yeah, I think there were exactly 2 wins that Starter Deck 14 Luffy had. And it was pretty impressive because personally speaking, I ran the deck for a long time, and
Hmm.
I was playing the deck at, well, I think it was Core TCG's regionals.
Hmm.
I ended up going 7-3, but I learned the hard way that day that as much as I enjoy the deck and I think it's extremely fun, it's much more fun than Lucci personally. Um,
Hmm.
that deck has one not so great matchup. It's not the worst,
Hmm.
like it's not like it's unwinnable. It's just not great. And you usually like will lose the matchup. Is Lucci. And guess what is the most played deck in the meta?
And yeah,
Ding ding
that's
ding.
that's the argument, right? And I think
Lucci.
that's kind of like the precipice of the argument, right? It's like, it's not, I don't think people that are calling it a bait deck is
Yeah.
a bad deck as much as they are. It's like, it's a good deck that generally speaking does well into the field,
Yeah.
except you're, I mean, arguably, I don't know. Would you? I haven't
I
played
would
the
say
deck
it's my
that much.
worst.
Lucci, okay, so there
Yeah.
you go. It's probably your worst matchup.
Yeah.
Is the most popular deck in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this awkward give take of like, I do well into the field,
Yeah.
except for the one deck that is the most popular deck.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I would say
um,
second worst. I
okay,
would say that Nami's probably the worst for it.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like, how much Nami? Not that Nami is not a thing, but you're seeing just an ungodly amount of Lucci when you show up to regionals,
Yep.
and you might get hit with like one, maybe two Namis, as opposed to like four or five,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lucci's.
Yeah.
So, there's a little bit of a disparity when it comes to, are you going to run into Nami and are you going to run into Lucci? You can pretty much punch your ticket for Lucci, and Nami is kind of like, maybe I will, maybe I won't,
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's, but 7-3. How many Lucci's did you play?
2, and I lost
Okay.
both.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dang. Oh, actually, no. I played 3. Excuse me. I played
Okay.
3, and I did win 1. So I,
Okay.
I lost 2 and I won 1. So excuse me. I was able to get the win on 1, but it was because he drew no Lucci,
No Gecko.
and no, I think he saw Gecko.
Okay.
He drew no Lucci, and he drew I I can't remember what his other removal card, whether it was Brook or whether it was Jack. That's what it was.
Okay.
No
Okay.
no
Jack.
Lucci, no Jack. That's what
Okay.
it was. He didn't see either of them. I
Got you.
think he saw like a Moria or two, but like it didn't matter.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
was just like, oh dang. All right. Well, you lose.
Yeah. So for the people that aren't aware, what is it about that matchup that kind of like tilts that for Lucci? What makes it so difficult for Luffy to get the dub in that situation?
Their Moria's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could just Moria into Rebecca into Lucci and remove 2 things where you can just you could just basically only do Moria into Kuzan
Yep.
into brand new, or
Right.
Moria into Rebecca into brand new.
Yeah.
So you're not removing anything with your Moria. You're
Mhm.
just making your leader a 6K, and
Right.
value. You're getting value. Like you're just drawing a
Right.
bunch of cards. So,
Right.
yeah, their Moria is just better. But that's
Okay.
what makes the matchup a little difficult. But if they can't see it, then they can't beat you.
There you go. There you go. Nice.
But yeah, no, I think that was an interesting deck. But it was interesting to see that throughout OPO8, pretty much standard. What I thought would be like winning, like a lot of Lucci, a lot of BY, like a Nami and a starter deck 14 Luffy sprinkled in here there. I think there was a Bonnie. There was like one Bonnie.
Yeah.
But then as we're rounding out OPO8, literally this past weekend on Saturday. Wait, what day was this? This was Carta Magica on October 26th. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Carta
Saturday.
Magica, October 26th, top 32 leader breakdown. All right. So what I saw splashing out throughout OPO8, right? There was still like within the top 32, top 16 sometimes. You would find an OPO5 purple Luffy occasionally, right?
Yeah.
They would be in
Yeah.
there. Like you'd see one, you maybe see two. Shout out to my man Zent. He was able to get third place with his on the regional prior to this one. I can't remember who hosted that, but regardless, he was able to get third place. That was really good.
Yeah.
Dude, this event this past weekend, Carta Magica, there were 8 OPO5 purple Luffys in the top 32 out of 32. That's 25%
Yeah.
of the top 32 was purple Luffy. And this is pre 8.5.
8.5.
Like
right.
the structure deck's bringing in new additions to the deck. I mean, yeah, people have figured it out. Purple Luffy is very good into Lucci.
Yeah.
Very, very good, right? But I will say this, it's only very good because of one card, and that is Magellan. And so going into 8.5 is where this becomes very interesting, because 8.5 the deck, you kind of have to make this weird decision with purple Luffy, whether you stick with kind of that OPO8 style build and like maybe just a small addition here or there of the new starter deck stuff,
Right.
or you go with the full like Sangoro, Luffy Taro, Zoro Juro package, and
Usopp.
and Usohachi and whatnot. And like when you put those in there, then it becomes a new deck a bit, but it does become a little harder to play into Lucci. And so it's interesting. Like the Luffy Taro package seems to do very well into Doflamingo, but the other one doesn't, like the more OPO8 centered build doesn't do as well into Lucci. So now it's kind of like does do well into Lucci, excuse me. So like they kind of have like, which one do you choose, right? You could try and build between and try and do both, but then it's kind of like that weird triangle where you're taken away from like, oh, I'm good into this, but I'm not good into this. I'm good into that, but I'm not good into this. But now I'm like decent into both, but like they could beat me if they draw slightly better. So it's like, dang.
I've taken the hybrid approach. If I'm being honest with you, I've included pretty much all the straw hat. The what you would imagine, what most people have been pulling from the Luffy structure deck.
Right.
I plugged just about all those in, and I still have 4 Magellans in my build as well.
Okay.
I've only played it a couple times in real life. I haven't really simmed it because the moment I got the structure decks, I put it in, and because I was with you, like I saw Ploofy getting these results, I'm like, what's this deck really talking about? And I built it, and I was like, how's this not been a thing more often? Like it's crazy how good the deck felt into
it's strong.
A lot of the matchups, and I was like, damn, these dudes just got free wins. Whoever was on Ploofy. Because, I mean, it just felt that strong. So admittedly, I haven't tested the build enough to say whether I really think that's correct or not. But that's kind of where I'm at for the reasons that you stated, because it's funny. I had a friend on Twitter that DM'd me, and he was like, hey, I made it to finals with purple Luffy. But I ran into starter deck 14 black Luffy, and I just felt like I couldn't win. How do I win that? And I said, brother, play all your Magellans.
Yeah,
he's like, he was like, I didn't see a single Magellan. And I was like,
that'll do it.
That'll do it.
Pretty much, that's the answer. If your opponent's playing black, Magellan.
Just mulligan for all the Magellans,
Yeah.
bro. Like that's literally all you need.
Yeah.
And there's just not an answer that black has.
Yeah. They're like, I can
For that.
remove it, but I'm never getting to Moria.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's twofold, right? You're eating
Yeah.
a minimum of 6K swings, and you're not hitting. If you won the die roll, you're not hitting your gecko on curve. Like
Yeah.
it's just, and black is very much a color that tends to play on curve cards. So the moment that you knock them down, it just kind of throws a wrench in their whole thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's super strong. But you bring up a good point. Like, what are you gonna focus the deck to be more strong
Right.
going into? And I'm in this weird hybrid place because I feel like there's room for both, but it's not as fluid, I feel like, as it was when it's like geared towards one or the other.
Mm.
And like when set 9 comes out, I think Magellans are getting scrapped almost entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
And so like the deck kind of takes on a whole different. It's just all gas, no brakes. Come set 9 when that secret Luffy comes out.
It's
And
all
just
straw hats, baby.
slapping you in the face for this rug. You're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of in this weird limbo of like, what are you gonna focus more towards? And I think the hybrid version is a viable way to go about it, to be truthful.
Yeah. I really like that deck. I think that so far, personally speaking, I that's the deck I'm having the most fun with in 8.5.
Mhm.
But I've tried Doffy, and that deck is actually, I won't lie, like it's really fun. I think the deck is one.
Really?
I love it. I think it's super
I think
fun.
it's the most boring. I think I look at myself in disgust, I think, when I play that deck, and I'm just like, and that's why it's affecting my opinion, because I'm just like, this is just gross. I don't want to do this.
I know. I think it's gross how good it is. Like,
No, I agree, but
it's
that's what I mean.
so
Like,
stupid.
I feel like, well, like I was telling you before the stream started, like if there's one thing that triggers me right now in the meta, it's just like Doffy blind flipping their top deck. And
So
like
I will
things
counter
like
that.
Like when I do that, I'm like,
Yeah.
I just look at my opponent and I'm like, yeah, that's gross, dude. I'm sorry.
I feel
like,
you, but I
know?
will counter that simply because I said the same thing on stream the other day. I was playing Doffy, and it was one of my first matches, and I was like, dang, I don't have Perona, right? How am I gonna set this card up so that I can do it? And so I basically just attached to and swung and prayed. I was like, please, hit, right? And like somebody in my chat, I can't remember for the life of me who said it, but shout out to them right now. They said, dude, I mean, you have like a 80% chance of hitting something. And I was oh yeah, you're right.
Just flip it.
Yeah. I was like, the whole deck is basically it's all seven warlords.
Yeah, you're not gonna whiff. It's just like, how good of a card am I gonna hit,
Yeah. But like that's the funny part, is that they bring that up, and I was like, oh yeah, so it's not really like I got lucky and I hit this card. It's more like, can you get unlucky and not hit that card is really the kind of underlying truth. So I thought it was pretty funny. I got a good chuckle out of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I personally have been finding the deck really fun. I think that it at least like it makes me think a lot more than like some of the other top decks. Like I like BY Luffy as well because it makes me think a lot, right? Like it's a very like methodical deck. Like you really have to know your matchups well, and you have to know like what timings I should be using this, or else you could just die. Like you're just dead, right? And you and I was like really enjoying that, hey, okay, there's quite a bit of thought that I have to put into this. There's some times where like I don't have enough Dawn, or I don't have the card or the characters to be doing certain things, but then I think to myself and I'm like, oh, what if I like put this up top, and then I can like also play out this, and then I can use Rested Dawn for that, and then this applies, and I start like the wheels start turning, and I was like, ooh, like there's so many different routes that you can take, which is why I think that Doffy's going to be a deck that I believe a lot of the meta will be playing. However, I think only a percentage of players will be successful with it. And the reason why is because I genuinely think you have to know your matchups in and out. If you don't, then you're going to be playing the wrong cards. You're going to playing the wrong cards at the wrong times. And you're going to be sitting there getting punished by your opponent because you weren't like doing what needed to be done in that matchup specifically.
Okay. I guess you and I have slightly differing opinions on it because
yeah, I mean, like I won't lie, dude, I have not dropped a game with it yet, and I don't even know how to play the deck, bro. It is broken. Okay, it is busted.
So there we go. And like I'm not going to disagree
but
with the
it's
point
fun.
that you're making. Well, it kind of has that red purple law kind of like playability to it, right?
Yeah,
Where anyone can quote unquote play red purple law, but can you play red purple law at an optimal level, you know, like you're talking about?
Yeah.
However, I think Doffy is more forgiving in the sense that you don't have to play optimal in order to see very good results. And I think that's kind of like the difference for me is that it's like, dude, just spam a lot. I mean, yeah, there's little things that you can, little tricks of the trade that you can do with, you know, like with Blackbeard is out, obviously become a little bit topic of discussion of recent on Twitter. There's fun things that you can do with Blackbeard and Law and stuff like, you know, there's cool stuff. I'll tell you one card that is driving me crazy in that deck that I'm seeing a lot more of is the Jozu, man. That Jozu is just so gross, man. Like I can't, it's so nasty. But I don't know. I feel like you can just kind of see the card. I mean, maybe I'm just being too harsh, but like I feel like Doffy just like sees the cards and just wins, and you're just like, damn, man. Like, and it doesn't even have to be that great of a pilot if I'm being completely honest. Like I've lost games to just spamming of the board because it's just Jimbei into like, you know, you know, and so it's just like, okay, well, this doesn't feel like it was all that hard for you.
So I agree. I agree to a sense that there are some like you said, like maybe they not the best pilot, but you still just kind of lose the game. I agree to a sense because I do think that Doflamingo in a way is also similar to RP Law in the fact that like there's just decks that will never beat it, you know? So realistically it depends on what you're playing, you know? Like I played, and I almost wonder if this was the deck you were playing. So I played a little bit of Smoker on stream.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so I was playing, I was like, all right, I'm trying to bring the dream back. Like, what is Smoker looking like? And I kept building the deck, and I was like, okay, you know what? I actually don't have that bad of matchups into like some of these decks, right? And then I played against Doffy, and I was like, bro, how do you win this? Like, legit, I don't know how you win that as Smoker. It seems impossible.
I've had a lot more success than I thought I would, if I'm being honest with you. It's a matchup that is just like, give me all the Tashigis.
That you have to see at least 3.
You have to. Like, yeah, well, that's the thing. The matchup revolves around how many Tashigis you see.
Yeah, and that feels awful.
It does, but like Rebecca can get Tashigis, and between Sengoku and Brand New, you're moving through your deck. The Rebecca into Tashigi is something that I just loop over and over and over.
Okay.
Like I just loop it basically as much as I can.
Gotcha.
Because I'm getting a free block, and that card does help out a lot. But actually, to the point that you were saying about black yellow Luffy, the starter deck one, when it comes to Gecko drops, Smoker suffers from the same thing. Smoker Gecko drops aren't particularly strong.
No, yeah.
At least they tend not to be. There's definitely times where you just see all the Sengokus and you see all the brand news, and so your trash is looking healthy. But the problem with Smoker is that when you've got decks like Gecko and Lucci that mill as they go, Smoker doesn't have that luxury. So I can't tell you how many times I've won my dice roll and turn 4 where I have a Smoker in hand and I look at my trash and I've got 2 cards in there, and it's like a Smoker play just is not the play. But
like, I got nothing.
A Gecko play is just not the play. But you've got like, I don't know if there's a worse feeling with having a Gecko in hand on your curve and not feeling like it's the best play for you. Like it sucks. And so that's where if the Gecko drops could be more efficient, with Smoker, then it would do a lot better.
Yeah.
But that's the hang up for me right now, and particularly into Doffy or decks that spam out that go wide. You know, this is why Lucci does well, is because Lucci has the ability to KO two at a time.
Yeah.
Whereas decks like Smoker, we're literally just removing one card at a time.
Hmm.
And so you there comes a point usually where you just I can't keep up, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just too much. But it's definitely a matchup that is extremely Tashigi dependent. So my advice would be get all your Rebecca's, get all your Tashigis, and just loop them the best that you can. Like just try and cycle that as best as you can. But again, it's kind of like red purple law. If Doffy just sees the cards, you're just gonna lose. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's it's just kind of one of those decks that there was no amount of cards that you could have played that would have won you that matchup, and that's just kind of the way that it is.
Yeah. And on this topic of, 8.5, I want to continue kind of like, because I like that we've brought up three decks so far, but I do think that there's like a lot of really interesting
Sure.
decks that people have been trying out and going through and playing
Yeah.
and in response to Doflamingo coming into the meta and some of the other stuff. But it was really interesting that as far as my experience at a store regional that I went to back at the middle of October, October 12th, I believe. I went about an hour and 45 minutes away from here, up
Made a
near,
hike.
yeah, not too bad, up near like Central Virginia, sort of.
Okay.
But it's near like the capital of Virginia. We went to this card shop that I'm actually is escaping me. I think it was like Modern Tabletop or something.
Okay.
It might be, but I might be wrong about that. But we went there, had a good time. I ended up getting third place. I went 5-1.
Nice.
I was undefeated, and then I lost in the finals because I was playing Lucci and I didn't see Helmeppo or Spandine, and I was just like,
Mm.
damn, I lose.
Yeah.
So it was pretty
What was
rough.
the matchup?
It was
you
it was the
playing
mirror matchup, and he saw
against? I got
he
you,
saw
got you. Okay.
Spandines and Helmeppos,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, oh, dude, I'm cooked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was still a really good trip. I was talking with a lot of the my friends, but also some of the guys that I met out there. That were nice enough to come and say what's up. Like they had either recognized me or they just saw the name and they were like, oh, I think I know your name, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they were talking to me about like, what they were excited for 8.5. And
Mm-hmm.
it was really cool that the vast majority of them all said kind of different things, right?
Nice.
And I thought that was what was really nice. Was when 8.5 started, I tried a bunch of different decks, or excuse me, I watched a couple of different games of different decks, whether that was through YouTube videos, live streams, playing against people on my own stream. I watched a bunch of different things, or like one couple games were in Discords. But yeah, there was people that were saying they were trying Marco, right? And Marco's solid. It's like
Marco is
super
a deck that
solid.
I've had a lot of fun with, and
Yeah.
and you can be very successful with
Yeah.
Marco. The problem with Marco is that you got to put in the work, dude. Like
Yeah.
you have to, and obviously fixing your hand every turn helps, but you have to see the cards in a sequential order
Right.
to build you. And so like it gets tricky in two ways. It's not the easiest deck to pilot. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's a deck that also forces you to know your opponent's, like you have to know matchups extremely well. Like you have to know what your opponent's trying to do more so than any other deck, because you're like the survivability of Marco in the mid game kind of relies on knowing what's coming and then being able to safely drop Sanji's.
Yeah.
Sanji's, it's kind of the icing on the cake. You can win without him. But like from what I've noticed, the very, very, very smart players that are willing to put in the work, you will have success with Marco. But it's not one of these decks that you just kind of like casually pick up and say, hey, I'm going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
Because you have to get the reps in with that deck. But dude, Marco is actually, in my opinion, it's a slept on deck.
Yeah.
It can do really well. I just don't know how many people are willing to put in the effort that it takes to do well with Marco, if I'm being honest with you.
Right. I think
It's super fun.
yeah, no, I want to try it. I have a couple of lists that I'm going to be giving a go. I think that I think that Marco was a really cool answer. I was like, "Oh, okay," cuz like
Yeah.
we saw Marco do pretty decent in OPO8. There was like a tournament where
Hmm.
I can't remember if it was top
John. It
8.
was John Suko, wasn't it? Didn't John Suko
Yeah,
get?
yeah, it was
Yeah,
John Suko.
yeah,
No, maybe it was
yeah,
a store regional. He won or something like that. I think he
yeah.
won a
Something of that
store
nature.
regional. Like he
Something of
went
that.
5-0 with a Marco,
Yeah.
and like his matchups were like, you just looked at it and you
Lucci,
went,
like pre
"What?
Lucci. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What?"
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the benefit of playing Marco as well, is that people don't play against Marco. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
don't like, like so there's this kind of element of surprise when you're playing against Marco, because there's probably a good chance you have not gotten a lot of practice going into Marco.
Right.
So
It
but
throws
I
you
mean
off a little bit. Yeah.
it does. And I had a friend actually here locally who before 8.5 when Marco came out, before Marco came out, we were already theory crafting and going back and forth, because I was someone who was very excited for Marco,
Mm.
um, and really wanted to try that deck out. So they drove up to Dallas and for a store regional, and he got either third or fourth in the store regional with Marco and secured his invite.
We take those.
But same thing, he played like three. I want to say he played like three Luccis, two or three Luccis,
Yeah.
and did extremely well with Marco himself. So
Love it.
the deck can do it.
Yeah.
It can make it happen. But when I see Marco players win, I'm like, that's a damn good player right there. That's the dude. The dude's a good player when I see Marco have success.
Yeah. Another deck that somebody had mentioned was and I thought at first I was like, why? Ugh. Like why would you want to
Yeah.
play that? And then
Yeah.
it really started to occur to me. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute.
Mhm.
That's not a bad idea." Depending on how 8.5 shakes out and how many people are just on Doffy, right? He was thinking Perona. And funny enough, I had some friends over last night that were helping us set up some like table decorations for our wedding.
Mhm.
And shout out to my man Kevin and his wonderful wife Michi. They were over, and Kevin and I were running a couple of games, and he brought up Perona, and he was like, play me with your Doflamingo, and I was like, all right, cool. So I play him with Doffy. He just like mops the floor with me.
Mhm.
He hits me with the Ryumas,
Yeah.
the 8-cost Sabo that wipes 2 things.
Right.
He hits me with like the Moria bring back the Ryuma. He's like tapping 2
Drawing two
cards to
cards
draw
off the
2 every
samurai.
time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, he basically just had like all this draw power, all this removal specifically designed for 4 costs, right? Which is all the
Mhm.
deck runs. And I
Right.
was like, dang, this is brutal, bro. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Perona
yeah, it was,
It's a solid deck. I mean, it's funny. That was the deck that I was toying with a lot as well, because a lot of the same reasons too. But Perona's kind of has like that vibe that a lot of the black decks have, kind of like Lucci. It's like sometimes you just don't see the cards, and you're just sitting there with a handful of caca that you're just like, brother, what am I like? I can't do, like, you've got Hiyori, but you don't have any Ryumas. You've got like 2 samurais in your hands, but you don't have 2 searchers to
yeah,
it's just, it can get kind of awkward at times for sure.
yeah,
But but when you do see the cards with Perona, it feels real, like you're like, okay, this really could be a thing for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. When Perona can be nasty, it can be gross.
yeah. Perona was a really cool idea. After playing a couple of those matches against his Perona as Blue Doffy, I was like, yikes, that's pretty rough.
I can see that.
So I thought that was a really interesting, like, kind of counter meta pick. And then what was the other one? There was, oh man, it's gonna bother me. Was also Yamato, because of some of the 2 topping lists
Yeah, I
recently
saw.
from Long and from Butts. Shout out to Butts, by the way. I don't know if he listens to the podcast at all, but I've played that man on ranked sim probably like a billion times. Like
Yeah.
a billion times. And like we always have really good matches. He's very, very cool. And he has been a Yamato fiend since Yamato's inception. So I really enjoy the fact that he's still going that route and is still making that work. I love that. It makes me realize like, okay, this deck is probably very slept on. And I think that going into Doflamingo, who's only running, 4 blockers right now, and you just have...
The boas.
Yeah, the boas. And you just have so much, like, rest power with that deck.
Right, they're only a 4 cost.
Yeah, and you just start throwing Onamis into the mix with Banish and everything. I mean, we're talking about, like, potentially another Doffy counter pick right there. And I thought Yamato was really interesting. I think it could get through Lucci with the aggressive behavior as well, starting off early and then going into, with some of that top end that they run, resting characters, getting through those blockers. Obviously there's something there. I don't think Yamato just falls off because Doffy and Purple Luffy get a little bit of a buff and Marco gets a buff, and I don't think the structure decks really change that. And I think I don't think it really gets any additions though, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't think green's all film cards, right? And then yellow is like Big Mom stuff that's not really relevant. Yeah, it's like a blocker Katakuri that attaches a Rested Dawn.
That's kind of you got the 6-drop Mom, but I don't know if that card's really seeing much play at all either.
Yeah.
It's a good, it seems like it's a solid card, but it's funny because I was actually going to mention, I wouldn't be surprised if Katakuri slowly starts making a little bit more of a comeback.
Yeah. So
it always is going to be how many triggers does Katakuri get?
Yeah.
That's always going to be it. But I've seen more recent builds that literally like 40 cards out of the deck are triggers, and it's just like,
well, Katakuri's been all right recently. It's not good. I won't say that. It's just all right because they're starting to run those two. I can't remember if they're OPO8. I think one's OPO8 and one's OPO7. But they got the Egghead Nami, right?
That card.
And that card's pretty good. So like just being able to remove 5 costs consistently with that is very good for Katakuri. Right. That's what keeps the aggression down on them and allows them to develop or get to the point where they can start to develop the 7 and 10 moms. So I think that's notable. And then there's also that card, which I personally hate this card so much, but it's super solid for them, is the Egghead Jewelry Bonnie as well. The 3/4 attach 1 Dawn. If your opponent takes a life, you draw 2 trash 1. That's so sick. That's like I actually really like that card, like from a design aspect. I think that cards like that are like, I don't know. That's where I go, oh, you know what? That's an okay yellow card, right? Rather than
it feels fair, right?
It feels fair.
Yeah, all right. That's fine. That's fine. I'll accept it.
Yeah,
I'll accept it.
Like I enjoy stuff like that. I think that's cool. Like they have to lose a Dawn, but also like it gives them like an opportunity to be able to cycle out some dead cards and stuff like that. It feels like a fair card. I enjoy that card a lot. But man, I hate seeing it on my opponent's board. But I'm like,
sure.
But I'm like,
I do want to make a note I do want to make a note of that card too, because I saw it being a topic of discussion as of recent, and I think it's an important rule that maybe some people listening may not have clarification on. If your opponent plays that card and you hit a trigger, like let's say Onami, that card doesn't go off. Your trigger goes off. It kills the Bonnie, and then even though you quote unquote took a life, the Onami kills the Bonnie, and the effect on the Bonnie does not go off.
Yeah, because you don't technically take the life until you have resolved a trigger or not. And
Yes.
so, yeah, the trigger resolves first before that effect. Yeah,
Right.
you're right. That
So
is a very
I
important ruling. Yeah.
it is, and I could see a lot of people getting lost on that ruling. So I just wanted to put that out there because that's not an everyday kind of scenario.
Yeah.
But I could see it being a thing. So just for the uninformed, make sure that if you get a trigger on that Bonnie, pop that thing and say no cards for you.
I don't know why I laugh so much at that. The uninformed.
Hey, I
It's-
mean, well, I'm trying to put it
I
as
don't know
softly as
why I thought it
possible. I
was
don't
funny.
know. I don't know.
To
The
all my people
uninitiated,
under a rock.
the uninitiated. Hey, bro, you should have seen. Did you see the forum on Twitter? Like, dude, half the people were saying you still get the Bonnie effect,
Oh,
and
no,
the
no.
other
Yeah,
half
yeah,
were
yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, I guess a lot of people really didn't know
Yeah.
like how this sequence is, right?
No, I'm not. Yeah.
So
By the way, it was just, I don't know why I thought it was funny. It was just, I guess it was just like the way you said it. I was like, yeah, that's good. That's good.
my bad. I wasn't. I
No, that
wasn't
was
trying
hilarious.
to.
I love
I
that.
hope it did not come off as like condescending or
Yeah,
anything of
yeah.
that nature.
To
You,
anybody that
you
sucks.
morons out there.
Yeah.
Hey, dumbass! Why did you let that Bonnie get the cards? You idiot! Like, what are you doing, bro?
That's funny. That
No,
is
no.
funny.
But I mean, it is something that I feel like that's an important rule to know. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, so
No, agreed, 100%. There's always like
yeah,
those niche rules that
there are.
you don't really think about until it actually happens, and then you're like, oh, dang, this is actually kind of relevant to know,
Yeah.
because you know, if you're, I mean, because I've been in situations where I didn't even know that, like
Sure.
I remember when you attached a Dawn, what do you call it? To a character, it brings up their power, but I didn't think that because it brought up their power in that exact moment that the trigger wouldn't kill it, because I thought it was still just like at the end of the day it's a 6,000 power card, right? So I was like,
Mm,
oh, jet pistol, kill that thing. And they were
yeah.
like, nah, son, it's a 7,000. And I'm like, no, it's a 6. And they were like, yeah, but it's a 6 with a Dawn underneath it. And I was like, is that how that works? And then,
Yeah.
this was when I first started the game, but
Right.
eventually when I learned that's how it works, I was like, oh, dude, this game is so much deeper than I thought.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny you
It's like the
mentioned that.
smallest thing.
I actually lost a regional match to our homie Voodoo.
Oh,
I was
dang.
playing Smoker and he was playing Zoro. I literally lost a match because I did not attach Dawn to my, and it was a go for game. Like there was no, there
Yeah.
was like, it was literally a go for game, and I had like I was gonna be swinging out with everything,
Yeah.
and I did not attach Dawn, and he jet pistoled my Borsalino.
Oh,
And when we played it back, had I just attached Dawn, it was GG's. And I remember that being that was like the stab in the heart where it's like I'll never
dang.
make that mistake again
Yeah.
because
Oh, you make
but
it once and then you go, all right, learned.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, yeah. So but yeah, shout out Voodoo, man. He was doing his Zoro thing and I was doing the Smoker thing, and we crossed paths in a regional, and he got the dub. I was like, you son of you.
Yeah.
But no, it was my own fault. It was literally it was my own fault. But yeah, I mean, it's the emphasis being it's important to know these subtle rules like this
Yeah.
because
Little
it does
interactions.
make it can make a big difference in the end for sure.
Yeah. And
So
yeah, I mean, like that's that I as far as like 8.5 is concerned, like just going back to like the very beginning of this whole discussion is that yeah, sure, there's going to be Doflamingo, Purple Luffy, probably Lucci and BY still, like it's going to be
Smoker.
I mean,
Smoker.
I don't know.
Hey, I'm just gonna say this because I'm not gonna make this a Smoker podcast. Smoker is more viable than people think.
I'm not disagreeing. Yeah.
I put it that way.
I
The
just
only
think
problem
your
is
worst matchup is the best in the meta.
I don't think. I mean, I gotta play better Dofies. Admittedly, I have to play
Yeah.
better Dofies. But it hasn't felt it's hard, but
Yeah,
it's definitely winnable. But Smoker's viable. It's just that Lucci's a thing. It's just kind of like it's the problem that we've had with other leaders. It's like, why would you play this leader
Right.
that's solid when you've got this other leader that is
Better.
better?
Yeah, just
Exactly.
better.
And y'all are pretty much doing the same things and have y'all share a decent amount on the deck list. So it's like,
Yeah.
why would I play this when I can just play this type thing? But Smoker is it's more valuable than I think people truly understand.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, there was one list I forgot. And this is a very, very interesting topic as well, because this deck is not by any means great into a lot of decks. However,
Okay.
it is insanely good into one deck, which it
Okay.
happens to be what we believe will be the most played deck in the meta, and probably the best deck in the meta with Blue Doflamingo. And oh, you know what? I'll give you a chance. Do you want to take a guess? And what do you think it is?
How relevant has it been in the last like meta or so?
Oh,
Has it been?
oh, not at all. Like, not at all. If there was a top, I must have missed it because
It's Birdcage Doffy, isn't it?
no, but that's actually a pretty cool idea. One of the colors is correct.
Green
It's a
Uta?
mono color.
Green
No,
Uta?
not Green Uta. It's Foxy.
Oh,
Dude.
okay,
Dude.
It's funny you say that.
Foxy is nuts into Doffy.
We've got a couple of Foxy enthusiasts here locally, and I was actually playing against one recently, and he was literally telling me about this. He was like, brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've been running into Doffy's as Foxy, and they've just been disconnecting on me because they're just like, they hate. And you know what? And when I started thinking about the deck, I was like, that actually makes sense, dude.
Yeah.
Because they're attaching all their Dawn just to come up, and they can't make any other plays because their Dawn commitment is trying just to go even on swings.
Yeah, and your leader effect is freezing two things, right?
Right.
Your 7-cost Foxy is making everything minus 1k.
You have two of those on the board.
You get two of those?
Dude, what are you doing?
It's game over.
What are you doing? You're not doing anything, bro. Like, you're attaching 2 non to each character just to come even?
Your leader effect is no longer a thing. You can't use it because of Foxy, right?
Exactly.
Your 7-cost reduces all of your board.
Right.
It literally is the direct counter to Doffy. And I laughed so hard when I was like, no shot, in my opinion. Like, one of the wonkiest decks in the game, right? Like, I personally don't think Foxy's bad.
It's not bad.
It's just not good.
It's one of those decks that's just missing.
It's missing a few things. Yeah.
And it could be a real thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But like, it slaps Doflamingo.
Yeah.
It is
That's too funny.
Downright disrespectful what it does to Doflamingo.
Yeah. No, dude, when he was like, yeah, I've been playing Foxy and a Doffy and people are just like rage quitting. And so I started to think like how Foxy works, and I was like, I totally believe that. Because it's just, I would be so frustrated as a Doffy player having to attach 2 Dawn just to come up to 5k to poke you for 5k and like not be able to do leader ability, or just like just the avalanche of things that occur when you're negged that much power for all those. It's just
absurd.
Dude, I got a chuckle out of it myself because I was like, I would rage too, because that's
you're like, I'm losing to Foxy. But no, like,
it's actually, dude, maybe I start bringing that to locals.
Oh, dude, you should. You would. Everybody would be so upset. They'd be like, "No, dude."
Okay, we're not gonna upload this podcast until next week. Let me get one.
I don't think there's a counter for them, dude. If I'm keeping it real, like, you're just down bad if you're up against Foxy. Like,
the Foxy character, is it a 7 cost?
7. So they can't even gravity blade it. It has to be red rocked,
Oh, and I don't even know how many Doffys are actually still running red rock.
I'm personally running red rock over gravity blade because of cards like that. Yeah. I personally think that like gravity blade helps for the mirror, and it helps it kind of helps in like the Lucci and like obviously the BY matchup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like your BY matchup is already pretty solid. It's normally like not bad because you have Perfume Femur, and on top of that, Red Rock just does the same thing. Like, hey, bottom deck one of your Sabos. Next turn, I can bottom deck another or something.
Sure.
But, I think it's okay. Personally, I think that like some of the more important cards that I want to get rid of, right, tend to be higher than 6 cost. It's like the cards that threaten me as Doflamingo, like cards like that, 7 cost Foxy. Like
Jack. I think
yeah,
Jack.
Jack.
Honestly, if
Yeah.
Jack wasn't as prevalent as it was, I don't know how much, but Jack almost in itself makes Red Rock
Yep. Yeah.
worth.
Jack's a
So
thing.
I could see that. I could
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. You have uh, why am I
But
forgetting?
that's the thing. Like I'm trying to think of other big cards that you're looking to use Red Rock
Well, you
on, and
got
there's set 9 comes and you've got like Shanks and Blackbeard and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Like
But I
9 cost Zoro, 8 cost Kid.
Zoro, okay,
You've got there's
yeah,
there's a couple of cards. I'm kind of forgetting some of them right now, but like Isho's kind of
eh,
like if
people are,
they attach one Dawn and then Lucci just wipes everything. Like
all right.
but yeah, there's a couple of cards. I'm not exactly remembering all of them at the exact
No, that's
moment,
fair.
but yeah, there's
I will
just
say
things that yeah.
it is hilarious that Foxy is a 7 cost and can't be touched by Gravity Blade. Like
Yeah.
that is actually hilarious to me. Like
It's super
I will,
troll.
yeah, dude, just to be out of reach and just to have 2 Foxies just laughing at you the whole time, like
Right.
that's got to be brutal.
Yeah.
That's got to be brutal.
It's pretty hilarious, bro. And
Yeah.
so I mean like back to what I was saying, like pretty much so many unique ideas that people are coming up with to deal with the meta, right? That's coming
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
And I think because of that, right? Uh it's going to make this kind of slightly weird landscape. We're going to have a lot of people I think initially just going, how do I counter Doffy, right? And then
Sure.
they're not going to be thinking, how do I counter this other deck? And that other deck is just going to ride all the way up to the top, right? And then from there is when we're going to have our correction mid-November. People are going to realize like, okay, wait. All right, Doffy's a thing, but like I also am trying not to lose to that, right? So
Right.
like, how do I win both, right? So that's where it's going to become very unique. And something that we mentioned at the start of the podcast was EU nationals, right? I wanted to slightly bring this up because I thought it was interesting. Throughout OPO8, Nami actually did fairly well in a lot of games, right? There was a lot of Namis, taking games off of like pretty much crazy good decks and decks that you would think should be winning the tournament.
Sure.
So Nami was up there as a contender for being one of the top placing decks, and
Right.
at least statistically speaking, with how many people played it. Now, I feel like Nami's really gonna fall off, right?
Oh yeah.
Because Doflamingo's gonna be
Right.
absolutely running over
Right.
what Nami's got going on.
Yep.
And like blue decks are realistically like Nami's, kind of like
Right.
it's like they're antichrist. They're like, oh god, no, not blue, anything
Right.
but blue.
Your day of reckoning has
Yeah,
come.
yeah. So they're like, I'll hit you with a gravity blade. Put those back to the bottom. Now you got 2 more cards at the bottom of your deck, which makes your job even harder.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's really intriguing that deck really did well actually. And OPO8 ended up winning EU Nationals. That's why I brought it up. It was able to go undefeated in Swiss first day of EU Nationals, and then I think it was a different player than the guy that went undefeated in Swiss. I think.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I'm almost certain.
And the guy on the second day was able to, do really well. And like I watched the finals against Lucci, and it was just like, dude, Lucci couldn't do anything. My man just drew the draw twos. He got the right Pilafs and Kayas, and he had the gavels when he needed them. And I was just like, oh, you're cooked, bro. You're dead.
Yeah. You're good. Yeah. And I think Lucci's not really teching towards Nami nearly as much as perhaps they used to be. Like I don't know how many Lucci's are still running the Brooks that may help you a little bit in the matchup. I don't know if like I haven't seen 8-drop E-Show really be a thing where you can possibly yank a couple cards out of their hand, that type of thing. But yeah, I don't. But to your point, Doffy's just gonna say, Nami, you're not gonna be a thing. That it just completely shuts that down.
You're not
So,
real anymore. I'm here.
yeah. Exactly. Which,
So
you know what, I'm not mad at.
I'm not mad either. And
Yeah,
that's something that yeah, I'm pretty stoked about. I was like,
yeah,
sorry Nami lovers. I apologize, but you know, firm Nami hater over here. I
yeah.
just
No, mine's too.
I don't like playing against decks that remind me of OPO4 Katakuri days. You
Well,
know, it's
it's
like
funny you say that because I wanna ask you a question to kind of bring this all together, and I'm curious about what your thoughts are when we've seen Black be as successful as it has been for as long as it has been.
yeah.
I guess you can tie this all the way back to set 5 with Sakazuki, right?
Yep.
So we'll be going into 3 full sets, essentially, not quite a year, but coming up on a year in December because that's when set 5 dropped.
Yep.
So almost a year of Black being if we recapped last year, Black would be the unanimous MVP
Yeah.
of how healthy for the game is Black being this good for this long? How healthy for the game do you find this? I don't mean that to be suggestive as in it's a bad thing because I don't necessarily believe that it's a bad thing, but it does bring in the question because I know so many people don't like playing against Black. They're just tired. They're tired of Lucci's. They're tired of removal.
Yeah.
And I'm curious of what your thoughts are about Black being as good as it is for as long as it is, and how healthy that is for the game in general.
So my opinion on that is that I believe that OPO 5, 6, and pretty much 7 were like, well, OPO 5 was a little different. So I think really I would just say OPO 6 and 7 were like Black is the best deck. You can't play anything else. Like OPO 6 and 7. Yeah, if you're not playing Sakazuki, Gecko, what was the other one? And then 7 was when Lucci came out. Yeah. So Sakazuki or Gecko or into like Lucci, like you're not a real gamer. You're not playing.
Well,
Like,
Red Purple Law existed,
yeah.
so but
Well,
that
Red
was
Purple
towards
Law
the,
wasn't.
that was towards the end.
Yeah, it wasn't until like OPO 7 that RP
7.
Law kind of
Yeah,
like really became a
got
thing.
juiced. Yeah,
And then that kind of got, well, all right,
yeah.
we're gone. All right, catch you
Right,
later.
right.
So I think like that's I don't think it's necessarily healthy for the game for one color to just be the most dominant, but that's why like the first year was the same way. You know, we had red. There was no
Red,
if you
right,
didn't play red, you weren't playing the game. You were just
right,
you were getting lucky with another color essentially
right.
is what I would call it. Right? Yeah, you know, there were occasional green tops, you know, with like
Greens, yeah.
Kid and you know, I there was like one or two blue Doflamingo tops or whatnot, but like, you know, there really wasn't anything other than like those that color essentially. Like you were playing red, right? And then it became you're playing black, right? If you want to play
Right.
the biggest best decks, right?
Mhm.
The nice thing is that in OPO 8 at least with RP Law being banned, it really feels as though there was so much diversity of the leaders, right? So yes, sure, there was obviously more representation of one deck, like a certain color than others, right? So like black was being represented more than yellow, blue, you know, purple, whatever, right?
Right.
But it's just because more people are playing it doesn't mean that it's gonna win every single time, right? So like, and we saw that with, you know, purple Luffy. There wasn't a lot of people playing it, but it was always kind of in the top 32. Like there was always one or two players that made it, right? And then you start to see like, oh wow, everybody's starting to realize like, wow, this deck is winning like once or twice. Like you'll always see it in the top 16, top 32, something like that. So what if I play it, right? And 8 people make it into the top 32, right? There's like 3 of them in the top 8 or something.
Yeah.
So like you start to think about it and you go, well, maybe we just weren't looking at the meta correctly. Maybe there was so many decks that were viable that just weren't being played. So I don't I don't disagree that black is obviously unanimously has been the best deck this year, right? I think Gecko Moria has a big part to do in that. Rebecca more so right now, but I think Gecko in from OPO 6 to OPO 7 was the problem. And then in OPO 8, Rebecca just became absurd, right?
Yeah. Rebecca
Rebecca
should not. I mean, as someone who loves playing black and gets a tremendous amount of mileage out of Rebecca, I don't think Rebecca should be a thing, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. So,
Rebecca's kind
yeah.
of absurd, but it is what it is, and I think that the beauty is that it looks as though in OPO 9, at least in the Eastern meta so far,
Hmm.
we've seen quite a lot of diversity. Lucci was
Yep.
really not like his stonks were down. He was not
Hmm.
looking good. And then
Hmm.
it's coming back up. So like
It
that's
is.
what it always should be. It should be like a little bit of a wave in balance
Right.
between everything. So Shanks is going to have its time. Purple Luffy, right?
Blackbeard.
Purple's becoming really solid over there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that because I think that
Yeah.
purple is such a good color. I think it's such a fun color.
It's just, dude,
And
it's so much fun.
yeah,
It is. It's a blast to play.
so,
It's.
so I'm excited for OPO
I
9.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I
And it's not, I didn't want to, I didn't like, again, like I wasn't trying to be suggestive saying it was a bad thing so much
mhm.
as like the way that black plays. I know a lot of people just hate playing into it.
No,
It's
I
like
understand.
black is an oppressive color that makes you feel like I just don't get to play the game, right? It's just like you just remove cards constantly and just swing, and then people are just like, well, this isn't all that fun for me, so I think I'm gonna look into something else, type of thing.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, every TCG has its control decks, has its decks like that are gonna focus more on control and removal. So it's just kind of a mechanic within TCGs in general.
Yep.
But I will say, for us to be, your point is correct, but for us to be coming up on a year and having a color be, more or less the dominant color, it does raise some question as to, okay, when is this kind of meta going to shift into perhaps a more dominant, when are we going to hop off the black locomotive and just maybe go on to something else? I don't know. Maybe Doffy's that beginning of the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was an interesting thought because I was just like, man, black's really been doing its thing for a good minute now.
No, it's definitely like the best color in the game right now. But
Mhm.
it's also one of the colors that I do think that there's so many there are a lot of ways to punish it. It's
Mhm.
just that I feel a lot of people's gripes. Like a lot of people that are complaining about the decks tend to be people that are playing, you know, tier 2 decks, like maybe like slightly off meta, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like I love my slightly off meta decks, bro.
Yeah.
That's my business right there, dude.
Right.
But
Right.
I love my meta decks too, but like I'll have fun with some of the, most random leaders that nobody
Yeah.
really thinks about, and I'm like, dude,
I'm with you.
this is my jam right here. But
Yeah. I'm with you.
so I go and do that, and I lose to Lucci, and you go, well, why should this be in the game, or like, why haven't they done anything, or blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. When you think about it, like, why are those decks the top of the top, right? It's not because of one card. It's more or less because they have a good matchup spread. They can
Hmm.
win against more leaders than maybe the deck that you're playing, right?
Hmm.
So, for example, Foxy, right? Foxy might be a dope call if you're trying to play 10 Doffies
Kill all the
in
Doffies.
a
Yeah.
regional, right? But
Right.
you're not going to play 10 Doffies in a regional.
Right.
You might
Right.
you might get lucky, play 5,
Right.
maybe 4. I was like, that's pretty lucky if you get like 4 or 5 of like your best matchup.
Right.
That's pretty solid. But like, can you win your other 5 to 6 matches is the real question,
Hmm.
And that deck, like, maybe you can squeeze out like 2 to 4 of those, but like you're probably gonna lose, you know, 2 to like 4. Yeah, you're probably gonna
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
2 to
For
4
sure.
as well.
Well,
And that's the name of the game. Is
I think
unfortunately you
there's
gotta
something to be
go with
said.
the best matchup spread.
I
So
think there's something to be said for what you mentioned just a second ago too. Is that I don't know how much initiative we have been taking to discover new things and to
yeah,
test new things and to really, like, I don't know how many people. There's a shout out to the homie Oh my gosh, his name is eluding me right now. He's the red green Odin homie. Kanar. Oh my gosh. Any I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not gonna make any further attempts. But the gentleman
I
has
don't
done really
know.
well with
Sorry.
red green Odin. He has cooked up red green Odin. He's kind of like he's like this. He's the gentleman that like just takes leaders and he cooks up and he does really well. He's a solid player.
Okay.
But we need more people like that. That just says, you know
Yeah.
what, I'm curious about this. I'm gonna sit in here. I'm gonna cook this up. And part of the problem comes from the thing that we've harped on all along is that we tend to look at Eastern and say, okay, this is what it is, and we just kind of accept it, right? And we're
Yeah.
just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna pick up where they left off, and there's no real exploration, right?
Yeah.
And so that also compounds the fact that we just don't test enough. We don't. There's not enough discovering going on where it's like, I want to see if this works or does not work.
And that's
Which,
what really caught me by surprise recently was the green yellow Yamato, right?
mhm,
You had two of them in the top 8 that crushed it, and everybody was
yeah,
like, "Yamato?
yeah,
What?" And
yeah,
then you
yeah,
realize you're like, "Dude, no, you just haven't been playing it. That leader is
right,
gas.
right.
It's
Yeah.
gas, dude." Like,
Yeah, we need more of that. We need more of that.
yeah.
Is and you know we finally reached a there was a point where you could argue that there just wasn't enough of a card pool, and there wasn't like we had a smaller card pool, and it was tougher to be creative with a small. But now we're coming up on 2 years in December with 9 sets, including some special sets, kind of thrown
Yeah.
in there. Like we've got a lot of card pool. We've got a lot of things that we can do to get creative. So
Yeah.
I would really, I'd like to see more like really cool stuff like that where people are taking the time to
So
cook something.
my cooking, all right, an
Oh,
OPO9 is well, I have two decks that I really want to like try and do something with. Obviously, like one of them is it's more or less kind of been sort of figured out already. It's not like 100% figured out, but it's like they've made a deck over in the east and it works. Is blue excuse me, purple black Luffy.
yeah,
Like
it's super cool.
I really want to play that deck. It looks super
I'm
dope.
with you on that.
And
Yeah.
then, but the other one that I have not seen anybody talk about, make anything yet, and I'm definitely gonna try and whip something up if possible, is a purple blue Straw Hat Reiju, right?
Okay.
Straw Hat
I
Reiju.
can see that.
So
Straw Hat, dude. The purple Straw Hat's got some insane cards,
yeah,
dude.
it's really good as far as like
Yeah.
cards that you can get. Reiju's effect allows with all the Dawn minus
Yeah, yeah.
from the Straw Hat cards
Card
to be
draw.
able to just draw so much. You play
Right.
Songaro and you get
I
to
was gonna
that
say, dude, you got Sangaro
dude,
now?
we are
Yeah.
cooking. And
I
you're
mean,
Opio 9 gets the searcher as well, the one
yeah,
cost law searcher. I think
the law, yeah,
it
a body.
searches top 4 and it gets a Heart Pirates or a Straw Hat, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
with that, you can you can essentially like make the build like have some Heart Pirates, have some Straw Hats, like
Super strong.
it's gonna be good. I
Yeah,
think it's a list
that
that
sounds fun.
that it could be really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I kind of wanted to work on. But
Well, I remember the Animal Kingdom Reiju.
yeah,
That,
I
that
just
was
that deck was good. It was I basically made it to beat RP Law. And
yeah,
it did. It crushed RP Law.
yeah, yeah.
But cuz I just drew more than them.
Right.
But like it lost to everything else.
Everything else, yeah. But it was super fun. Like I remember taking it for a spin. I was like, this is actually really fun.
It's
I
very
like
fun.
this.
Yeah, it was super
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
I think it's still an
Like,
idea later. Like it needs a little bit more, you know?
well, Reiju's generic leader ability is really strong.
It's
That's
super
like
good.
that's a really good leader ability, and
Yeah.
so like I feel like it's going to be very relevant with not just Germa, although Germa does get the body searcher now,
Yeah.
which will be really cool to see. So
Wait. Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
I
Yep.
don't think is it set 9 or is it
I think
set
that's
it's
set
set
10
10.
though.
It's set 10. It's set
Yeah.
10. Yeah,
I could be
it's
wrong,
set
but
10.
there's a lot of Germa stuff coming out. It's like
Yeah,
Germa
yeah,
and Big Mom Pirates in 10.
yeah. So it'll be cool to see them get a body
Oh,
for
100%.
the search. But yeah, no, that card, it almost feels like inherently it's just always going to be a thing because of its generic ability is really strong.
Yeah. So one thing that we wanted to talk about, I thought this was really fun. It's just kind of a fun topic because I like this is branching off of all the starter decks and stuff. I think that there's good things and bad things about them doing this. Was the starter decks came out and they had a pack of PRB
Yes, yes,
01,
they did.
right? And like all of these what made me think of this was we're talking about Reiju and everything, right? And there's like all these different alt arts and stuff and different arts of cards that came out for reprints. And I've seen so many of like the Yonjis and Nijis and stuff like that, and like really, yeah, really cool cards that they made different artworks of, and like reprints.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like really cool. I'd love to hear how your experience went with the starter decks, because we'll start with that first before we get into like the cards themselves. But getting the starter decks, it seems for people was extremely difficult because all people wanted was to either scalp the prices to get the best price because people knew they were interested in the PRB, or like inflate, or no, just mass buy them, so just to open up the packs of PRB so they weren't letting anyone else get any. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how your experience went with getting yours, but I got fairly lucky. I'll tell you mine in a second.
Yeah, I'm not if I'm keeping it a buck, I'm not a good representative of what the general public. I'm sponsored by a card shop. I'm partnered with a card shop.
True.
And I know target people as well. So like,
my boy got no
hookups.
hookups.
Completely honest. If I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all, I'm not gonna sit here and make up some struggle story. I'm taken care of. I'm covered.
That's funny.
But I will say,
dang, I don't even have that yet, bro. Dang.
Hey, let's get you connected.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, the TCG, the local card shop, I've been partnered with them for a while now. Back in like my Pokemon days.
Yeah.
So like that's been established. But the target person, I've known them for 4 or 5 years now. So
yeah,
it's one of those things when a release comes out, I'm like, hey, are you gonna be here? And they're like, yep. I'm like, cool, see you in a little bit. That type of thing. So like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and say, but I will say, through discords and other and Twitter and so on, like people are literally just buying every, even the Utas and Katakuris and Smoke, like they're literally just snagging everything off the shelves. The Doffys are being resold for an ungodly, like I saw people posting like $35 Doffy.
Dude, I think that's so messed up. Like,
bad.
I'm sorry. Well, I get if you want to make like your prices higher, right? Like I understand from a business standpoint, $11.99. You're like, hey, I have overhead, I got employees and whatnot. Sure, sell it $14.99, $15.99, whatever, dude. I personally wouldn't mind paying that price.
15 is like the ceiling for me.
That's for me too.
I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not giving you a penny over $15.
Yeah,
man.
like that's what I said. Is I was like, hey, $14.99, $15.99. If it's a shop that they do right by their customers, they they give everybody, they take care of us and stuff like that. I'm gonna be like, dude, you got it, bro. No worries.
Right.
Doesn't bother me. I'm all good. Right. But if you're gonna, dude, I've just seen some places that are like the Uta, Katakuri, Newgate, and Smoker decks will be selling for $24.99. Luffy will sell for $29.99, so $30, right?
Yeah.
And then Doffy we're selling for $34.99. It's like, dude, I'm sorry, but fuck you. Like here's the thing, right? And we kind of had a discussion about this on my stream the other day, was like, they're the same product, right? I know they have different cards inside of them, so that's why somebody was saying, well, that makes them not the same product. I'm like, to a degree, yes. But what is it that's inside of there? There are 50 cards in a deck, there's 10 Dawn, and there's a pack of PRB, and there's a play sheet that teaches you how to play the game. They're the same product, right? They have the same price and everything, right? I understand supply and demand, but this is before you even have supply and demand problems.
Right.
You have no idea what the demand. You're basically just going off of this is going to be the most popular deck so that we can raise the price. And so what I did was, when I saw that at one of the local shops, I was just like, I'll take these 4, right? Because they're for MSRP, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want those 2. And they were like,
Yeah.
you don't want the blue? I was like, nope. I got them at Target. I was like, I'm not.
No, you can't.
You
You can't
influence
support.
with your wallet, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
no, I mean
Yeah.
it's something that I've harped on for the longest time. It's like, you know what? I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money. If you make a healthy amount of money, and honestly spending $30 for a starter deck is just not an issue for you,
Go ahead.
fine.
Yeah.
But like, it's your money, spend it how you want. But just understand that you are
You're
by
enabling.
you are signaling to them that is okay, that's acceptable for them to charge double what it is, because I'm willing to pay that much. And so spend your money, whatever. I'm not gonna pocket watch you, but like, at the same time, what you're doing also is saying, hey, it's fine for you to charge double MSRP, because I'm willing to pay for it. And I
Yeah.
just that's a tough pill to swallow for everyone else who's trying to stand their ground and be like, no, I will not. I'm not going to
Yeah.
participate in this. I'm not going to do it. I think also is the PRB pack added that extra, like,
That's what it was. That's why I said it at the
that,
very beginning. It was it's a great idea, but it's also like, because
yeah,
it's now you just have people hunting that. And I
right. That's
saw
that's what happened.
the scummiest stuff, dude,
Well,
on the Facebook Marketplace. People were opening them,
oh
taking the
yeah, and then
pack
they're
out, and then
charging
selling the other ones
$20.
for $20.
$20.
I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, what are you
So,
talking
but here's
about?
but here's the thing, and actually now I think about it,
What?
it's actually
What?
twofold, right? Because check this out.
Yeah.
We've got PRB, which is like, we're getting like a preview of PRB, if you will, which everyone and their mom always wants to be like the first to check out a new set. Like, you always want to see the
Yeah.
latest and greatest as soon as possible. That's always a thing within trading cards.
100%. Yeah.
So that's a big thing. People want to see it before its actual release. Like, they want to get a little taste of it. But the other thing is that almost simultaneously we had confirmation of God packs.
Oh
Right?
yeah, that's right. That when that German
And
video
so the
came out.
moment the
Oh
moment God packs got confirmed, I was like, this is cooked.
yeah,
This is this is
that's
this is
super
cooked.
fair. That's super fair. Yeah,
Because every degenerate person is going to be like, I want to pull the $3,000 pack of cards,
well, it's
and
like 5 or 6.
fair,
Crazy.
I haven't looked at the recent market, but yeah, like, I want to be the one to have a shot at a God pack, and
Yeah.
so it brought in a lot of people. There was a guy in my damn, I didn't mean to say it. There was a guy in a Discord that bought 72 starter decks.
Jesus Christ.
72.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, are you going to be distributing all those starter deck cards to the local population?
Yeah.
And being like, here you go, fellas.
Santa Claus. Here you go.
Yeah, like could we talk? Could we convince you into doing something like that? But it's just like, it created this scenario, and the God packs were just like, it's cool that people wanted to see PRB, and that didn't help the cause. But then the God packs got confirmed, and then it was just like,
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's where it all got really crazy. Is and initially we were like, okay, it's technically not confirmed yet, right? Like this is, we're just seeing a
Speculative.
snippet of a clip, but it looks to be, good.
yeah.
And then sure enough, the day that they got launched, somebody else pulls one.
that-
and it's like,
that
God packs
Wednesday-
are real.
Bro, that Wednesday, if you follow some of the more prominent One Piece news Twitter accounts,
Yeah.
that Wednesday before release is generally when product starts getting put out for a lot of Targets and Walmarts and so on. Is
Yeah.
the Wednesday before the Friday of the official release. So if you ever trying to like keep tabs, always be on the lookout on a Wednesday. And then I started seeing the more prominent One Piece news accounts start getting in the confirmations from people that found stuff on Wednesday.
Yep.
And tagging them, being like, holy crap, the One Piece is real. And there's just like
yeah.
10 mangas laid out on their table, and I'm just like, oh my, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like, it's the real thing. I will say though, I got for me, I left Doffy's and I left Katakuris. I'm like, y'all can have those. I don't want anything to do with them.
Oh, okay.
So I got 2 Smoker, 2 Ploofy, and 2 Whitebeard, and that's where I'm at. That's all I have right now.
Okay.
So I got 6 packs of PRB to open up, and it was fun. I didn't pull any hits. I pulled a little sparkly. What is it called? The Roger, the gold
Yeah, like the Roger foil or something like
Roger
that.
foiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it looks great. I
Yeah.
got a queen in one of those. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I love that. That foiling looks dope. But
it looks really good.
I've also pulled a couple that was really interesting. Is they didn't have the Roger foiling, right? But they were event cards. It was like El Thor and the Ama no Marakumo, the sword from like OPO 6 or something like that.
5, 6.
I want to say it was 6. Yeah,
I think you're right with 6.
Yeah, because Houndblaze. Yeah.
And then yep.
And so like they're hollowed and textured, right? And they have that little one piece stamp at the very bottom left. But it doesn't have like the like Jolly Roger hollow.
Huh.
It's just like
it's just sparkly and
just flat hollow
go back
and it's
look
textured.
At mine.
Yeah. So like I have it like right behind me, but it's it's really interesting that they came up with a bunch of different artworks, or not artworks, foilings for these.
Yeah.
And then of course like the alternate arts and stuff. So
yeah.
There's a bunch of different alternate arts. I love the Dawn. The Dawn looked really sick.
Dawn looked good.
Yeah, I actually ended up pulling 2 of the foil Sakazuki Dawn, so I'm trying to get a play set of those. So
nice.
yeah, so if anybody's got any that's listening, any Sakazuki foil Dawn, and you're trying to hook a brother up, I know they're going to be like $2-3 when PRB comes out, so they're not even going to be that expensive. I got a PO box.
Oh, okay. So here's like, yes, I'll be attaching my PO box at the bottom of the description. So here's like an air door. My lighting is not the great, but like kind of like what you're saying. It's got the texture and it has the hollow and the gold. Like
exactly,
that looks so good. Dude.
Yeah, it doesn't have the foil, but it's got the That's it. Yeah.
Looks really good.
Yeah,
looks
so I
really
have an El Thor and the Amano Marakumo that has that, and it was so interesting because I saw one that was the air door, or no, the El Thor, excuse me, that I had one that had the straw hat foiling, and then the other one just had like the regular foiling, and it threw me off for a second because I was like, wait, why do I have 2 different versions of this? So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I got an Ice Age here that's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I will say I opened up 6 packs of PRB, and if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if I'll be opening up any more packs of PRB even on Pawn.
Oh, I'm gonna buy
I'm good.
I'm buying 1 box.
I'm good.
That's it.
Yeah,
like I don't need reprints.
No, well that's the thing. There's nothing for it. As a player, I'm gonna if you're focused more on playing, I would say you probably don't want to really be opening up PRB.
Yeah.
Just buy the singles if you want to make your deck look good, because there's literally not a single new card in this entire set except for the Sanji leader. And that's it. I mean, if you want to go manga hunting for the Nami, knock yourself out. But from a value standpoint, these singles are gonna be dirt
cheap, dude.
Dirt cheap.
Ridiculous.
You will never get well. I guess God packs are going to be a thing. So
God packs are a thing, but like, good luck, bro. I mean, so far I've seen 4 confirmed cases of the God pack happening, and like you, not every single one will be posted. So like, sure, maybe there's been. I mean, we'll argue like 10, 20, right? Out of how many starter decks that came out?
Yeah.
Bro.
But to be fair, you only get 1 pack in the
You only get 1 pack, but how many starter decks went out? Probably like tens of thousands of starter decks.
Bro, isn't it crazy to think imagine you buying a starter deck for MSRP and then walking away with like 4K.
4K, yeah, 5,000. I know a buddy that pulled one and he sold all of his mangas to one guy for like 5.5. And I was like, "Oh my god." Like,
yeah, no, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have done
crazy.
Like, you're out of here. But hey, so I mean, it's cool. It's PRB is not going to offer any difference in the meta. We're gonna have to wait until set 9, which is middle of December for set 9.
I could be wrong in saying this, and I probably am. I want to say that it's like December 4th or 5th, 13th or something. But
Okay. So yeah, that makes
don't
sense.
don't quote me on that.
Well, no, I mean,
Um,
we had set 8 released in the middle of the month, so it tends to
yeah,
line up around the middle of the month when these releases take
yeah.
place. But
It might be the 6th. I don't remember. It's either the
and we
6th
don't
or the
have
13th. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and we don't have anything between now and then. So our
Well,
meta's kind of
we have treasure cups, baby.
well, I'm sorry, I meant like structure starter deck, like
Oh, I see.
anything
I see.
like anything new to kind of shake up the meta.
Right.
But we've already had we
Yep.
just had
Just 8.5.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is fine. That's
Yeah.
totally cool.
I think 8.5 is going to be a blast, personally.
I agree. I'm having dude. I think also is that even if it's not the strongest deck, there's a lot of decks that are viable.
Yeah.
Like you like so long as you can go into a tournament saying I've got a chance, like I can win with this deck, but there are decks that are better than it.
Yeah.
I think is like it's still it at least give me hope. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's as a smoker player, that's literally all I'm clinging on to. That's definitely my copium is like, you know what? It's not the strongest deck. I do have bad matchups, but I can still pull it off.
Yeah.
And I think just like that being a thing gives a lot of people enough confidence to take decks that aren't Lucci or Doffy. So.
Yeah. I just want everybody to just keep crushing all the Lucci players, which will be great. And then I will run away with it as Purple Luffy. So it'll be fantastic. Yeah.
It was funny to see you playing Lucci after all those times. You're like, nah, there's no way I'm gonna play Lucci. There's no
Dude,
way.
I
Oh,
didn't
can't.
wa-
There's no way. I don't know how you Lucci players do it. I don't know how you
bad.
do it. Yeah.
You know what? You're not wrong, bro. Damn,
Yeah.
you didn't have to put me
I was
on
like,
blast like
I was
that.
like, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
So you're not wrong. But I knew that my time was limited to get an invite
That's fair.
for the Orlando Nationals. So I was like, I gotta try my hardest, dude. And I super
Lucci is
sent
that
it
deck.
on I sent it on Lucci, and I mean it I got me this beautiful Shirahoshi right here.
There we go.
So we're okay with that. And I got my national invite, so we
Let's
take
go.
those. Not
Hell yeah.
too shabby,
Nice.
But man, what a fun time to be
Yeah.
back. I missed you. I'm sure.
Likewise, man.
I've been getting a bunch of messages that everybody's like, "When's the next episode?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry. We've just been
And
busy."
you know what?
So
To be fair, I think you and I need to literally just, for the most part, write in a schedule of like every 2 weeks. On this day, on this time,
Right.
we do this type thing. But to be fair, like we also don't want to beat a dead horse when
we don't want to
there's
talk
just
about
not
the same
really-
thing over and over.
right? And so
Yeah.
maybe some of that falls on us to get a little creative on different things that maybe aren't relevant right now per se. But we've had light discussions about like having fun with like tier list or rankings or whatever like coming up with some other things that kind of to do while things may seem a little stale in the meta. But I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you, like I think 8.5 is going to give us a lot to talk about. I think there's going to be
Yeah.
some surprises and some fun things to cook up, and then set 9. I'm not overly excited for set 9, but I think it'll still it'll give us some good stuff.
I am stoked.
What is it? So real quick? What is it about set 9 that just has you?
Everything purple, bro. I'm playing purple.
Man, my man is going full purple.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
full purple, bro.
All right.
I'm gonna be playing purple Luffy, black purple Luffy, red purple Luffy. It's like all my Luffy leaders and purple and black. I'm like, dude, it's a dream come true. OP09 is gonna be a dream for me.
Blackbeard might give purple Luffy some nasty problems, but
I mean, I will see.
know.
I don't
theory,
see.
I don't know.
I don't see Blackbeard being like the worst thing to play against, but I think it's an interesting leader to where like it stops a lot of unique plays that you would normally have. So
Right.
I think a lot of your stuff kind of becomes vanillas, but we got some activate mains in there. Not too many, but there's a couple.
We make it happen.
Yeah.
We make it happen. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough. So
I'm excited for that. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out the episode. I think this was a fantastic one, and I
always a
think
blast.
I will say that preemptively, I believe our next episode will more than likely be about 3 weeks from now, because I do get married in less than 2 weeks on November 9th. So I would
I'm
imagine,
starting a new gig, so I kind of got to
yeah,
put a lot of my attention towards what's going on there. So
yeah.
yeah, that's fair.
It'll
That's
probably
fair.
be about 3 weeks from now. We'll have some treasure cups that happen in November to talk about. We'll have a couple of good discussions of some other events. Like there's some offline regionals that are happening
Mhm.
that we'll be able to discuss, with the 8.5 being played at these events, which is great. And yeah, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I hope that you guys, whether you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, have enjoyed the episode. And it's always great if you either give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, whatever it is on wherever platform, and share it with a friend. Yeah.
Yes,
Other
please.
other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.
Laters.